Hey peeps, I had 2 members of our community reach out over the weekend and ask if I would make a video on transition, on how to maneuver through endings with presence and grace. And the interesting thing that came through in both of those requests, which were separate, so I really felt like there's something energetically that it's important to speak to right now. But both people mentioned, not just like an ending of one thing, but those times of transition when it's like everything seems to die or fall away. Maybe it's not just that a relationship ends, but we also lose our friendships and we find ourselves understanding we have to make a shift in our career, profession, or purpose. Perhaps it's a sense of we've lost all of our friends and we're losing family members. Or we've moved and we feel isolated across the board in every way possible. There are these times in our path as humans when we move through these experiences where it feels like everything falls away. And it can feel extremely isolating. And I do know from my own personal experience with this as well that there can be a sense of perhaps feeling like we are being punished in some way by the universe. This real sense of isolation, rejection, and separation. So if you're moving through that, the first thing that I want to offer to you is that you're not alone. All of us move through these times at one point in our life or another. And the power of what you are moving through is, in my opinion, as a reader and a priestess, the energy and essence of the Judgment card. So you're really moving through a period of rebirth, a resurrection to come home to yourself, if you will. I have been through this energy refinement by fire, I think I'd like to call it, a few times, especially in the decade that has been my 30s, where you feel like you've lost everything, everything falls apart, people you thought you could depend on or wanted to build something with betray you, disappoint you, disappear out of your life, walk away from you, or you are forced to walk away from them. And what is happening truly is, and for this energy, you can work with deity like Santa Muerta, Maccabi, or Hades, because you're really working with an energy of bringing everything back down, stripping bare to the bone. The universe is giving you a chance to redefine and understand yourself and to offer yourself presence and healing around areas that you may have been avoiding. Whether it's because you've had an awakening within yourself that you've lost connections that you thought were reliable in your life, or because we feel like those things have been forced on us by others' awakenings. What you are experiencing and what we all experience when we go through this is an opportunity for awakening, to become and to move into a space that's more in alignment with who we truly are. So how do you move through those times? You've lost people, relationships, connections that you thought you could count on. You feel unsure, insecure, frightened, abandoned, rejected. You may be experiencing self-doubt. And again, you may feel like you're being punished. So how do we move through those times? That's what I was asked to speak to in both of these requests. The first thing that I can say I do feel is most important, and very much if you want to get in alignment with the grace and compassion of the cycle you're moving through, is to allow yourself to feel your emotions and feelings, all of it. I would say I spent a fair amount of the first half of my 30s really running away from this part. And I only had to deal with those emotions in the second half of my 30s. So I would just offer to you from personal experience, it's much kinder to your nervous system, to your energetic body, to your physical body, to really allow yourself to process your emotions. Now, this is uncomfortable and it's a little bit scary because, and I can speak to this from experience. We have that moment of just feeling like I'm never going to stop feeling this sad. I'm never going to stop crying. A big one for me is like, if I start crying, it's never going to stop. It's just going to be oceans of emotion that I can never get away from. Or perhaps there's fear around your security and stability or identity. And so the idea of confronting that fear feels terrifying. But I want to assure you that the more still you can be and witness your emotions, those fears are unfounded. Because what you find is you move through an emotion and another emotion rises up. You honor and look at that, respecting where you are, giving yourself the space and time to be with, say, that sadness, which shifts into anger, which shifts into maybe a state of feeling defensive and protective. Another wave of mourning may rise. But eventually, through witnessing and being there for your emotional self and being, there is a grace that comes in, and you find that you're able to move fluidly with presence. And from that space, then the emotions can quiet. They don't have to be so in your face because you're letting them be. You're allowing them to be acknowledged. You're bringing presence and a witnessing to them. And so it allows them to not have to be so confronting and overwhelming. And from that space comes an understanding of what you are moving through, which allows you to have compassion for all involved, even those that we may feel we really have a bone to pick with. And the beauty of this as well is you really come to a state of peace within yourself towards yourself. You're not needing to fight yourself as much. Or what I found is the more that I could open up and be with my emotions around the endings that were occurring, the deaths that I was experiencing in my life, I no longer had to be so controlling of myself and try to fit into a specific idea of how I felt, how I thought that I should be handling these endings, right? I was able to be gentler with myself. Then from that space, I was able to see and acknowledge the signs, the synchronicities, the messages that the universe, my spirit tribe, whatever you'd like to call that for yourself, were sharing with me about my period of rebirth. And then this energy of the Judgment card became about my own awakening and my own growth and what I was opening up to explore within myself and my practice, and not just about or only about the loss. Because there can be a real tendency to hyper focus on the sense of, I'm going to be alone forever. I've lost my friends. I've lost my family. I've lost what I consider to be my community. I'm completely alone. I'm going to be alone forever. Those kind of fears and that kind of self-talk can really come forward very strongly in these times. And so by allowing yourself to feel the emotions, then you're able to be calm enough to see that the universe, instead of punishing you, is really showing you through signs and symbols, through your card work as well, perhaps your journal practice, your meditation practice, whatever it is you work with there, that what you're actually experiencing is a sacred rite of passage, and that this is your time of rebirth. So then you can get curious about, well, who am I now? This allows you to not be so hyper-focused on how do I find new friends? How do I find a new partner? Or how do I find that next best job? How do I find the right company to work for? It can let that kind of chatter shift into, wow, I think I want to take a little space here to know this new birthing of myself, this new incarnation of myself within this body, before I need to worry about where are my people? Or where is my perfect job? Or where is my security? And how do you get to know the new self? This is like one of those key things that I really balked at for a long time, but I found you can't avoid this one. You got to spend time alone with yourself. and not just, making delicious food and drinking delicious wine and watching a movie, although that's a beautiful part of it too. But like really sitting with yourself and honoring what you've come to know and understand that's dying within yourself and what's now ready to be explored. And I found most helpful for me with that was a lot of journaling, a lot of card work around, how do I feel? Who am I now? What am I learning from this experience with these individuals or this ending? What do I feel like my boundaries are now? Have they shifted? What do I want to explore now? What do I feel called to open up to? What would I like to welcome in? It's about getting to know yourself. It's about building a relationship with yourself. And from that space, also, a lot of times you have the understanding that, maybe that ending, that loss, that rejection was actually really necessary. And we kind of knew that something within that experience had reached its natural conclusion. But maybe we didn't want to be the one that pulled the trigger, or we didn't want to lose that sense of family or community. And so with those awarenesses, we can then work ritual and ceremony that honors the beauty of the experience that we may have had, but also the fact that it's reaching its own ending within the cycle of life. It's a death cycle that we are moving through. And I've always found that ritual is a way that I can really honor those cycles and honor the rite of passage that I'm working with, that I'm experiencing, that I'm moving through. And by creating ritual, which is an art form to me, we elevate the experience as well, so that we can find the poignancy within, the wisdom within the lessons, not just the pain. So this is something I want to speak to as well, the pain part of the cycle. This is one of those emotions and feelings that is sometimes the most difficult because we don't want to drown in the pain. And a lot of times we all would just want to run away from that pain. We want to cover it over. We want to cover it up. We don't want to acknowledge it. The pain is something that I do feel it's important to deal with, to get real about, to acknowledge, and to really feel into the body where the pain is. This is an area where I feel like our body is our greatest help. It's our most powerful witness. Your body is going to let you know by physical pain where and what you're holding on to. And how do you discover that? You ask your body. You've got to be connected to the body. So again, you have to spend time with your body. I'm moving through an ending of my own right now, and I have been for several months now, and I have one area in my back that always fires up around it. And I know when it's hurting that it's time for me to sit and talk to that pain. And it's not about fixing the pain. It's about honoring and acknowledging and witnessing the pain. And honoring and acknowledging the emotional root that's within the physical pain, or the root that's within the emotional heart pain that we're moving through. And then again, we honor, we witness, we make and create and craft our version of art, elevation, understanding, presence too. And then we move it out by surrendering. We surrender to the ending. We surrender to the pain. We surrender to what we've come to understand about ourselves. And through that, we cross over the threshold into the rebirth part of the death cycle. And I've always find this to be one of the most fascinating parts of this type of cycle is the rebirth piece, because, and it's interesting, I went for a little drive this morning to take some photos for my social media content, and the sun was shining, and I was like, oh my God, I'm stepping over the threshold of this ending. I can feel it. I can feel these new aspects of me that are starting to grow and blossom and wanting expression and growth. And I feel a little excited, nervous, but a little excited about what this next chapter is going to be for me. And what do I feel called to speak about in this next chapter? What have I learned? What am I ready to explore? What am I ready to say yes to? So there is going to be that time first we have to be the hermit with the Judgment card, and we have to do this piece. But there is going to be that time when you start to feel the unfolding, when you feel like, oh, I kind of want to open this heart space. I want to be vulnerable and present and authentic. And then you start to understand. So I should say, there's the excitement of that rebirth. We're stepping over the threshold. We're starting to see that we're going to be able to interact with things from a new perspective, more open, and from that, more empowered, present to our sovereignty, aware of healthy boundaries for ourselves and for others, and able to speak our truth, right? With the compassion and the grace of not fighting the endings that we've been moving through, but being open to our grief, being open to our evolution. And then from that space, we step over the threshold, we start to feel the newness. And the more that we let our light shine, which is why so much of my personal work within our community the last year has been about this. And I think will continue to be about this in 2024. The more that we are comfortable in who we are and who we are growing into and stepping into, and the more that we let that light shine, we will see that the new friends, the new and chosen found family members, the new experience of community, the next right job for us, the next right space to settle down and put roots down and in regards to physical location will then come to us. Because we've created a space to be open to that. Instead of shutting down, feeling victimized, feeling, because we're running from our fear, it's all we can see, and staying stuck. When we are ready and able and we step over that threshold into the rebirth, then it's the opening, it's the clarity of the Judgment card, the refinement by fire, which fire is the element that is associated with the Judgment card. Said that in a reversed way, but you know what I'm saying. The Judgment card is the elemental trump of fire, was how I meant to say that. But we've had that refinement by fire. Now we have the clarity and the truth of our own beauty and divinity, and the beauty and divinity in all others, the wisdom and the lesson within the endings that have happened. Then we welcome in the next chapter and what is to come, without having to force, to push, to make new connections, to force change. When we move with the cycles, but we're present, not avoiding, that's how we're able to move through those times in our life when everything feels like it's dying. When we feel like we've lost everything that we defined ourselves by, that we depended on, that we thought was always going to be there for us, and maybe we were ride or die for, and we discovered other people were not ride or die for. This also allows us to welcome in a truth within this realm of contrast, and that is everything dies, everything is reborn. Both are true. So the constant in this space is change and experience through contrast. It's not about, and this was huge for me as a Taurus. I have Scorpio and Taurus placements in my chart up the wazoo. No air in my chart at all for the most part. And so I really, really crave stability. So much does my little Taurus heart crave stability, right? I have my Venus is in Taurus as well as being a Taurus sun. So I love me some stability and structure. But what I've really been blessed to come to understand throughout this decade, that has been my 30s, is that the only thing that I can depend on is that things will change. There will be endings, but there will also be rebirths, be new birth, and there will always be beauty and what is to me the art form of our spiritual path. So these are the things that assist me in moving through times of change, but most especially these times of death and endings, whether they be physical death and physical loss, or loss of things that we thought we could count on, trust on, and build upon with others. Allow your spiritual path to support you. Allow yourself to feel your emotions. Get to know who you are. Be kind to yourself. These things will help you open up to your own cycle of rebirth, of resurrection, so that you can rise like the phoenix and allow yourself to grow and change, which is really what you're being given, an opportunity to grow and change. The final thing that I would say here around this as well, be gentle with yourself and allow yourself to change. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't hold yourself to a standard that no longer applies because something has shifted within you. Get curious and get playful about who you are now, not just who you were or who you've always been. And my final piece of advice here is to get your ass out in nature if at all possible. One of the most healing things for me is to go to Sister's Ocean, to go to Grandmother Ocean, to craft ritual with her, or to go deep into the woods and cry into the ground. I have found those two things to be, oh wow, I'm getting emotional around that, guys, profoundly healing for me. And the most impactful spiritual teacher that I've ever had. So if you are moving through a cycle like this, get out in the element where you feel the most connected to the grandmother. Whatever the grandmother looks like for you, whether she's Mother Earth, whether she's the goddess, get out there with the grandmothers. Let nature witness your pain. Together, this will be your burial ground and your refinement by fire. And then you get to take the inhale that is springtime. Rebirth. New things to be experienced, new things to be grown, new adventures to have, new people to meet, new careers to experience, new places to find that are home. So if you are moving through this time of death, be it literal or metaphorical, please know that you are not alone. I hope this video comforts you and gives you support and sustenance. Listed in the description box down below are a few journal prompts that you might like to work with if you're moving through this process. Please know you have all of my support, and I am sending you oceans of love. I will see you in the next video.